Good evening. My name is Reva Getz, and I'm very honored to be here and participating in this annual event. This is my second year serving on the Board of Trustees, and I'm so pleased and so proud to see the progress the library has made and is making and is planning to make. Thank you for having me tonight.
To Chief Justice Tani, thank you so much for being such an amazing inspiration to me as a Filipino American and as a woman and just as a lawyer in general. I am so grateful to have met you tonight through Mel Avanzado, and he's spoken so many great words about you, and obviously everyone else has as well. I just wanted to say thank you for personally inspiring me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Bill Harn. I'm with Southern California Edison Company. Here at the Friends of the LA County Law Library celebration. It's my pleasure to say hello to Justice Tani Cantil-Sequeira. Justice Cantil, you may not remember me, but I was a student intern in your courtroom in 1991. I learned a lot in your presence, poise in the courtroom, courage under fire. You're a great example and a wonderful leader. Thanks for putting up with me for 2 to 3 months while I was learning how to be a lawyer. Good luck as a Chief Justice. I'm sure you're going to do a fantastic job. You've already done so already.
I'm Mel Avanzado. I was asked to speak for by the Chief Justice I have no idea why I'm here. There's a former governor, presiding judge of LA County Superior Court, and a former LA County bar president, and me. Which one doesn't belong? But anyway, I'm honored to be here. I used to have my research done here back before they had computers, so it's a very good event for me to come, and glad to be here. Hope it's a success. Good luck.
I'm honored to be here to welcome our Chief Justice with all the best hopes for a successful and extremely long tenure in doing justice for the courts and the people of California.
Okay, I want to congratulate the Chief Justice on her succession to her position. She has done a wonderful job in learning very quickly in the face of many challenges. And we wish her the very best. And please keep in mind the court commissioners. Thank you.
I'm just so proud that she has this position, and I wish her all the luck in the best wishes in this financial situation. But, you know, a woman can do it, so I'm sure she's going to do a great job. And she just has to keep getting out there and meeting people and convincing everybody that the courts really do need the respect and the money that they need in order to function as an equal branch of the government.
Congratulations, Your Honor, on this auspicious occasion. And I saw you actually in the elevator on your way up here, so this is somewhat fortuitous. And we are honored by your presence and look forward to seeing you on other occasions. Thank you very much.
I am Susan Steinhauser. I'm proud to say I'm president of the LA County Law Library, and on behalf of the thank you. And on behalf of the library, our Friends group, and our staff, I say welcome. You all know you're important because you're all here, but tonight you're especially important because this is the first time in months that we have had our front doors open, and you are the first ones to come through it. So give yourselves a hand. Tonight we're celebrating our 9th gala, and we're honoring 2 icons. First, our Chief Justice, Cantil Sakiue. She is our state's first Filipina, first Asian, and only the second woman to hold this esteemed position. And we also honor our law library, an enduring and evolving civic institution guided by the very fundamental principle that without access to legal information, there is indeed no access to justice. At the law library, as you might imagine, we are in the midst of a paradigm shift as we balance our historical role in managing print on the one hand with the demand for digital resources and new services for a variety of users. Let me just give you 4 examples. First, we have a collection of almost 1 million volume print equivalents. That makes us the second largest public law library in the country. And side by side, we have 28 computer terminals, more than 90,000 digitized California appellate briefs, more than 25 legal databases online, and the entire publisher's electronic works for CEB, CCH, and Aspen, many of which are available remotely. Number 2, we know that business is global. I shared with some of you earlier this evening that 40% of our collection is devoted to foreign and international material. 300 countries are represented. We have a foreign and international law library ready to assist you. Thirdly, as you can also probably imagine, in an institution of a life of 120 years, our demographics have changed tremendously. Pro-pers today represent almost 70% of the initial family law filings in our local courts and almost half of our users. We maintain a self-help collection of almost 500 titles, have a dedicated self-help librarian, and partner with the courts, self-help centers, legal aid providers, and public libraries. And for all of you attorneys here, we provide MCLA classes at what I understand are very affordable prices. We have a technologically equipped training center, and through our members program, you have only to turn the corner and go into our second reading room. You will find our study, our enhanced reference service, and for all of you who really appreciate what Los Angeles traffic is about, parking. Regardless of change, one thing does remain constant, and that is our commitment to get you the legal information you need in the format you need when you need it. Now, since 2003, when Earl Johnson first approached us about naming this library for Mildred Lilly, we have set aside one night a year for merrymaking, reunion, and camaraderie, and some have told me on the sly, even for Justice Lilly's chocolate mousse pie. Tonight we honor, as I said, Chief Justice Cantil Sakiuwe. She is a trailblazer from humble origins. She is an award-winning debater, accomplished attorney, innovative jurist, and as I most recently learned, a highly regarded Aggie basketball player. She is a barrier breaker, history maker, high-powered, and graciously accessible. Prominent members of the political and legal community will sing her praises. A look at the display case at our entrance will give you an even better appreciation of just who she is, and it is fitting for so many reasons that she receives tonight's Beacon of Justice Award. The County Bar has been with us at these galas since the beginning when Robin Meadow was present, and I believe that Eric Weber will be joining us tonight, and we are delighted. We have a number of special guests who I want to recognize. Some of them may no longer be here, but they were here earlier. Assemblyman Mike Fewer, our Controller Wendy Gruhl, City Council Member Eric Garcetti, representatives from Congressmember Judy Chu's office and from Mark Ridley Thomas's office. And I want to acknowledge that Supervisor Ridley Thomas's office has a resolution in your honor. We have public officials John Vandekamp, Ron Brown, Janice Fukai, Margaret Donnellan Todd, and of course, distinguished members of the bench, many of whom you've all had a chance to speak with. And we also were fortunate to have some of our past Beacon of Justice honorees. We have Justice Earl Johnson here, and I know that Justice Charles Vogel and Miriam Vogel are here somewhere in the masses. So we say we honor you. I can't close with some brief, deep, and abiding thanks to our major donors, Munger, Tolles, and Olson, and Edison International, and to tell those of my former colleagues at Edison, which I left, I think, almost 15 to 20 years ago, how good it is to have an opportunity to work with you all again. To thank our honorary co-chairs, to thank our Friends Board, headed up by the ever-tenacious and ever-vigilant President Terry Cavill. My deepest gratitude to the Law Library Board of Trustees for the generosity of spirit, time, and wisdom. Appreciation, too, to our talented and dedicated library staff. I encourage you, use them. They are ready, willing, and able to serve as your partner in legal research. Without them, we couldn't provide the quality and scope of service we do at our 10 locations. Before you hear from our distinguished speakers and honoree, I'll turn you over to Marcia Kozloff, our Creative Executive Director, who will share with you just what she thinks this library is up to and the direction in which we're headed. Thank you.
First, a few more thank yous. Lee Garcia, Jay Nelson, Estorgio Barajas. Without you, we could not have done this evening. They took care of every detail, small and large, inside the library and outside the library. So thank you so much. There's an interesting dichotomy at work at the LA Law Library. We are considered a special library in that we focus on a single area, the law. But we are also a public library, and that makes us unique among special libraries, which are primarily private and serve a sole clientele. LA Law Library has a variety of clients, from bench officers to practitioners, both from large firms and solos, from legal scholars to paralegal students, from self-represented litigants to those citizens who just have a need for basic legal information. So, although we are just completing repairs that will keep this facility viable for the next 20 to 30 years, we hope, we need to consider how best to use this building and how best to provide access to legal information for all those groups. At last year's gala, I said that our goal is to shift the perception of the law library away from a building full of books to an environment for continuous learning, community engagement, and knowledge sharing. Toward that end, we are engaged in collaborative efforts with bar associations, public libraries, other county law libraries, and the courts. Over the past year, we've hosted or spoken at more than 20 court, bar, and college events. We've provided basic legal information training for more than 230 public librarians throughout LA. We are working with the courts to develop a set of FAQs to assist the self-represented litigants. And we began a joint effort with the LA County Bar, so stay tuned for the fall membership drive. Serving this diverse community today requires no less than a transformational change away from the traditional library. As we move from a transactional model to an engagement model, from lending to learning, we no longer wait for the community to find us. We seek the community. We must consider how to leverage digital collections, repurpose library space, and redeploy library staff. Consider a freestanding law library kiosk in courthouses, in public libraries, in self-help centers, or other public spaces. Imagine that kiosk with print and online services and staff available to assist. Consider a law library app. One touch and the law library is literally at your fingertips. Maybe we have Skype-type access to a librarian. Consider repositioning the law library to serve as a handshake between the courts and the public by providing forms and pleading packets in multiple languages, or providing a place to view a video that explains how the court works, what it can do and what it can't do. As we transition to digital collections, we repurpose this facility to be one of continuous learning, a civic resource available for training, for lectures, for conferencing, as well as for study. It's an exciting time, and as we journey through this transition, I suspect that we will be calling on you, our friends, for insight, for guidance, for counsel. I want to thank you for your continued generous support. On behalf of the Law Library staff, I congratulate Chief Justice Cantil Sakaue, I knew I would mess that up, sorry, on receiving the Beacon of Justice Award. It has been a privilege and a pleasure to have spent time with you during the preparations for this event. We are honored that you are here at the Law Library. Thank you so much.
Welcome, everyone. Congratulations to our honoree. And I am Terry Cavill. I'm president of the Friends of the Los Angeles County Law Library. As Susan mentioned, the Friends organization was founded almost 10 years ago to help ensure that this venerable institution surrounding you continues to thrive and serve our community despite fluctuations in its ordinary funding. I'm very proud to be part of the Friends and to support the library's outstanding collections and programs. I hope you'll take a good look around and also talk to the library staff who are here to talk about all of the wonderful things that the library has and does, some of which you've heard about just now from Marcia. If you're interested in getting involved with the Friends, please talk to me or to Susan or Marcia. We're always looking for new supporters of our group. Since the Friends began, one of its staunchest supporters always has been the Los Angeles County Bar Association. And now it gives me great pleasure to welcome and introduce the president of LACBA, Eric Weber.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you all. It is a great pleasure for me to be here representing the LA County Bar Association, but also a great pleasure to be here personally, because as others have observed, this building has long been a central part of legal education and learning for young lawyers in this county. In fact, when I was a summer associate 25 years ago in 1986, actually that's more than 25 years ago, isn't it? In 1986, a long, long time ago, when I was a summer associate, Bob Adler, who is here today, sent me down the hall from Munger, Tolles, and Olson, one of your staunchest supporters. He sent me down the street to the LA County Law Library to do some securities law research because there wasn't the right resources, the right books at the Munger, Tolles, and Olson Library at the time. So this was one of my first welcomes to Los Angeles, and it is a particular honor to be back here today speaking to you as president of the Los Angeles County Bar. It is a long-standing and strong relationship between the LA County Bar and the LA County Law Library that Susan, Marcia, and Terry all referenced. But I think many people don't know that the two organizations were in fact birthed together. In December of 1878, 22 of the then 58 practicing lawyers in Los Angeles met at a local restaurant to establish both a law library and a local bar association. The law library grew into the magnificent institution you see around you today, and that bar association grew into the Los Angeles County Bar Association. The people that met at that dinner 135 years ago recognized the importance of a law library for the legal community in order to share legal resources, to promote learning, and to open access to justice to not just the courts and members of the legal profession, but to the community at large. And they also appreciated the value of an organization that would act collectively on behalf of the legal community to serve the interests of the profession, but also to serve the broader interests of justice. And at that time, the world was very different than it is today. And yet, over time, both organizations founded at that same dinner 135 years ago have grown, just like our extraordinary city, into vibrant and everlasting, I believe everlasting organizations with a central part in this city's life. The LA County Law Library is, as Susan and others have said, one of the most, I guess the second most extensive public law library collection in the country, serving both attorneys and citizens at 10 locations around the county and now online through digital media. And it's a particular pleasure to see the signs of renewal, especially after 4 or 5 very tough years of a rough economy, in the new entrance that we all enjoyed coming into tonight, and the beautiful new terracotta color on the side of the building, Terry. I like it all very much. I like it all because it serves as a reminder that this institution is vibrant and ongoing. Similarly, the LA County Bar Association grew into the largest local voluntary bar association in the country with tens of thousands of members, not just here in Los Angeles County, but all across the country. Dozens of specialized sections, committees, and public service projects, hundreds of programs and events every year, and operations all across the county, and like the law library, online. So despite the many challenges over the past 135 years since our birth together, both the LA County Law Library and LACBA remain true to our vision founded by those men, all men, 135 years ago, over dinner, but a vision adapted to the 21st century, a city and a county and an economy incredibly diverse, incredibly vibrant, far different than it was 135 years ago, and yet still served, still focused on the interest of justice, still served by the focus on information and the power that comes with information. And all of us here tonight, I think, can pause and look at how that vision has grown and be genuinely inspired. Again, I'm delighted to be here as part of the LA County Bar Association sharing that. It's also a special pleasure to be here to honor our Chief Justice, Tani Cantil-Sakaue, who is, I think, quite literally a beacon of justice. That award, the Beacon of Justice Award, established in 2003, recognizes ideals that are very similar to those that led to the founding of this library and to LACBA back in 1878. Service to the legal community, respect, admiration, and affection for our system of justice, access to justice for all, and an inspiration to work with others for the cause of justice. And I think our Chief Justice exemplifies all that that award stands for. For those nautically minded, the name of the award, Beacon to Justice, might bring to mind a navigation light, an essential guide to avoid rocks and shoals and find safe passage through rough seas to a sheltered harbor. Yeah, you get my metaphor. It is a time of great turbulence, changing and rough seas for our state's justice system. And our Chief Justice during those times has been very much a beacon, a guide, a lodestar. In courts up and down this state, and in the legal profession throughout the state, we're buffeted by cruel impacts of those rough seas. Essential elements of our justice system appear to be lost, tossed overboard. Long-term valued court employees, funds to rebuild deteriorating courthouses, funds necessary to bring court records and electronic data into the 21st century, all appear to be lost. Caseloads continue to rise, court resources continue to shrink. The result is that justice slows. And as we all know, justice delayed is justice denied. And it looks to many of us like the wheels of justice in California could quite literally grind to a halt. And yet, all of us in this room, and all of us on the courts and involved in the courts and inspired by the court's leadership know that we can't let that happen. All of us have to work together to make sure that the system of justice that has served this country and this city and this county well for 135 years or more continues to exist. We can't have a California without courts. No courts, no justice. And again, I look to our Chief Justice, who has proved so quickly, so convincingly, in such challenging times, just how well suited to the job she is, as a shining example of what we must all do to preserve our system of justice. So, Madam Chief Justice, my congratulations, my admiration, my thanks. You have the support of the organized bar. To everyone here tonight, thank you for supporting the Los Angeles County Law Library. And as Terry and Marcia and others have suggested, I look forward to announcing a new era of cooperation between the LA County Bar and the LA County Law Library, involving what I think will be very interesting and very exciting membership benefits for both of our members and exciting implications for the legal profession and our community here in LA. Again, thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much, Eric. The four members of our stellar speakers panel tonight all have extraordinary records of public service to our profession and to our state. In the interest of time, I commend you to their brief bios in the programs that you all received. I'm going to introduce them all at once, and then I'll stand aside and let them get on with extolling our wonderful honoree. The Friends are honored and grateful to welcome former Governor Gray Davis, LA Superior Court presiding judge and former LACBA President Lee Edmond, and distinguished trial lawyers Edith Mathai and Mel Avanzado. Thank you so much for being with us tonight and helping us to honor the Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Terry. First, congratulations to Terry and the Friends of the Law Library for again sponsoring such a terrific event. The work that you do to enhance the funding for this remarkable institution is so important. And we all really look forward to the opportunity to make merry in the library once every year. So thank you for all you do. Thank you, too, to Marcia Kozlov, the library's executive director. During the time that I served on the Board of Trustees for this library, there's no question that one of our greatest accomplishments was bringing you on as the new executive director. You and your remarkable staff have done so much to expand the outreach and services provided by this library to our legal community. For example, at each of our courthouses where you have branch library sites, you assist us with the self-help process, helping to educate those who are trying to find their way in our legal system without a lawyer. And I understand that you're now working with our court to create a program where here at the main library, you'll provide space to help educate litigants without lawyers in the family law process. These days, that's not just the indigent, but also the working poor and even the middle class, many of whom are facing the loss of their children, their life savings, and their homes while they try to navigate a legal system that is foreign and frightening to them. We at the LA Superior Court consider you to be a valuable partner in our efforts to provide access to justice, and we are very grateful for your help. And just look at this library now. It is gorgeous. A special thank you goes to the current Board of Trustees, my wonderful colleagues from the LA Superior Court bench, Judges Jan Plume, Ann Jones, Louis Lavin, Mark Uhas, Reva Getz, and to Ken Klein and the board president, Susan Steinhauser, who, you know, has now served on this board for 15 years and is a true force of nature. Congratulations to all of you for your continued good work. Now, I'm very honored tonight to join these distinguished speakers to say a few words about our Chief Justice. Edith Mathai has been a dear friend for many years. Mel Avanzado is a newer friend who I've gotten to know over the last year or so. And Governor Davis, well, he's the one I have to thank for my job. Governor, I have never had the chance to thank you publicly in your presence, so I couldn't pass up the chance to do so now. Serving as a judge on the Los Angeles Superior Court is the greatest job in the world, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I am truly blessed to have the great honor to serve on the California judiciary at a time when it is being led by a remarkable woman, our Chief Justice, Tani Cantil-Sakaue. According to the program, the Beacon of Justice Award is given to those whose character and outstanding service to the legal community have inspired others and brought them the respect and admiration of the legal community. In my view, there could be no better choice for this award than our Chief Justice. Her personal path to becoming chief is indeed inspirational. We can and should celebrate her historic appointment as the first Filipina American to serve as Chief Justice of California. Her story stands as a shining example that all people have an opportunity to succeed in this great state. And I've attended a number of programs where she has shared her story with rooms full of young lawyers who can't help but be inspired. With all the things on her plate, she has been remarkably generous with her time to speak to bar groups on a wide variety of topics while deftly handling all her other responsibilities. And as Chief Justice, she has taken on immense responsibility. When people think about the Chief Justice, I think they naturally think about a superlative legal mind, and perhaps on a more practical level, someone with an understanding of the policy implications of the weighty legal issues that are being taken up by the Supreme Court. I think they often do not think about the Chief Justice's role as the chief administrator of our branch, or as the voice of the judicial branch in the legislature, or as the policy leader on statewide issues for the branch. But those are incredibly important roles that the Chief Justice of California is called upon to play, outside of her role as Chief Judge of the Supreme Court. In normal times, the pressures of those many full-time jobs would be difficult to bear. But with the crippling budget cuts imposed on the judicial branch over the past 4 years, she took this job at a time of unparalleled pressure. Fortunately for us, the Chief Justice has brought a sense of calm and confidence and a leadership style to the job that is well suited to the difficult times we face. She's worked hard to bring more voices to the table, to address controversial issues head on, and to encourage a debate that, while proving difficult at times, is always civil and absolutely necessary to maintain cohesion within the judicial branch during such a catastrophic budget crisis. The woman that I got to know when we were both on the Judicial Council is warm and very gracious, willing to hear all sides of an issue before making a decision. And she continues to exhibit those qualities in her role as the chief. She's reached out to talk to people. She wants to know what people are thinking and is willing to listen to issues of concern of judges around the state. She's formed a number of committees to examine all aspects of branch operations, including the operations of the Administrative Office of the Courts. We've already seen changes made, and I fully expect there will be more to come. Moreover, in the midst of dire threats to access to justice, we are fortunate to have as Chief Justice someone who recognizes that an underpinning of a free society is that the law must be accessible to everyone who needs it. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Sacramento, where she spoke passionately to the legislature about the devastating impacts of the budget cuts to the branch. She was a true beacon of justice before that body, proclaiming the need to safeguard our courts, to protect our core mission of adjudicating disputes and maintaining access to justice. She gave the message loud and clear that the judicial system is the cornerstone of our democracy, and we can absorb no further cuts without significant impact to the public. She has proven to be an articulate and eloquent voice for that message. Martin Luther King said, "The measure of a great leader is not where he," and now I'm going to take a little license because I know if he were here today, he would also add she. "The measure of a great leader is not where she stands in times of comfort, but where she stands in times of challenge and controversy." These are such times for our courts, and we are privileged to have this Chief Justice standing out front, facing great challenges to access to justice with courage, competence, and with the utmost civility and compassion. I am very proud to have her leading our branch. Chief, we in the LA Superior Court look forward to continuing to work with you on the budget issues threatening access to justice and the other challenges facing the trial courts in the coming years. Congratulations on this well-deserved award.
Good evening. My name is Mel Avanzato, and I feel compelled to introduce myself because I stand here before you on a panel with former Governor Davis, the presiding judge of the Superior Court of Los Angeles County, and the former president of the LA County Bar. You know, which one doesn't belong, right? But anyway, the reason I'm here, of course, is because the Chief Justice asked me to be here. And when the Chief Justice of California asks you to do something, you damn well do it. Now, she is the 28th Chief Justice of California, and she's been on the bench for a year. I'm Filipino American, and I cannot tell you how amazing it still feels, even a year and a half after her ascension to the bench, to the highest bench. And my role here is to kind of talk about her community service, her life within the community in Sacramento. And so I can go on and on about her boards and her positions on various organizations. She's been, or still is, with the Anthony M. Kennedy Inn of Court. She's obviously a leader of the Women Lawyers of Sacramento. She's a part of the South Sacramento Asian American Bar Association, the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association. She's a part of the, she's a member of the Sacramento Asian Sports Foundation. And I'm even told that once upon a time she used to like to play golf, which is one of my obsessions. I might have to try to get her out there, but I'm sure she doesn't have any time. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was, as a Superior Court judge, then of a Court of Appeal justice, and now as a Supreme Court justice, she's made time to be with the community, and not only the community in the broader sense of the legal community, she's also been out there with her daughters and her family. She's, her family is very close to her, obviously. Mark Sakaue, who's a retired policeman, Sacramento, and her daughters Hannah and Claire, She has been with them every step of the way through their softball practices and whatnot. And she's also very active in the Asian and Filipino American community. She has led by example in terms of not only having a stellar legal career, but the ability to balance work and life in a manner that's pretty remarkable in this day and age, to achieve her success while still maintaining an active family life. But in my opinion, the chief's true contribution to the community, if you will, is just how she has lived her life. She has energized the Filipino American community. She's energized the Asian American community just from how she has risen through her career. She comes from a very humble background, raised in the Central Valley in Sacramento, and a product of public schools all throughout. She's actually, I consider, one of the shining tributes to the University of California system as a graduate of UC Davis, both from undergrad and from law school, at a time when women had a harder time getting placed in legal jobs. When she graduated, she had to get a job as a blackjack dealer. Now, I always hesitate to point that out because, you know, as our Chief Justice of California, you know, one would think it's not appropriate to talk about her time as a blackjack dealer. But if you think about it, during a time when she could not get a job, in order to support herself and her family, she went and she survived. She went on to the DA's office and distinguished herself so that 3 governors elevated her to the bench, various positions in the bench. She told us a story, actually, once that when she was in law school, the precursor to what is now the Asian, NAPALSA, National Asian Pacific American Law Students Association, there was a group of Asian law students there, and the precursor to that is very informal. And so they didn't really have a board or officers, and the president of that Asian Law Students Association would be whoever had the interview that week. And that's really how her life is defined. She's a survivor. She comes from humble beginnings to rise to the top of our profession, the top position in the judiciary. Now, one of the things that I wanted to touch on as well is that her ascension to chief just establishes that we've come quite a long way in the legal profession, and I'm very, very proud of that. We have, as Filipino Americans in California, we only have 10 judges. Another one sitting over here, my friend, Judge Bernie La Forteza. We only have 10 Filipino judges in the state of California, but we do have the chief. And what I've said in the past, and I continue to say it, the library calls her the beacon of justice. We in the Filipino legal community have called her our rock star. She has energized us. She has energized young law students of Asian American descent, even older lawyers like myself, to get involved and try to make sure that we get other people in the pipeline so that she's not by herself on the bench. And so I conclude by saying that the chief really has become an example of how you can overcome obstacles and have immense success in your career as a lawyer, but without giving up her community service, her ability to raise 2 wonderful daughters, have a life with her husband Mark, and still be the top jurist in the state, frankly. And so it is fitting that the chief is being honored as a beacon, as our rock star today, and I am very, very humbled to have known her and to be her friend, and very, very honored to be here to help introduce her this award. Congratulations, Chief. Many more successes in the future.
I always, Lee's my great friend, but I always am hesitant to speak after she does. It's a challenge. Thanks to the library for throwing one of the best events in the legal community every year. This is always a delightful event, and it's a great event to see so many people that you actually get a chance to talk to as you circulate. So thank you very much. I'm honored to have a chance to say a few words here tonight. I have a very short list of heroes. It's really hard to get on my list of heroes. Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakaue is on that list. She took this position in January of 2011. And I think that people don't really know, and I certainly can't actually know, but I've seen a bit and have some vague understanding of just how incredibly impossible this job actually is. Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court. I today actually pulled a little blurb on all of the decisions that have been decided by the court as a whole since she became the Chief Justice. You should do it sometime because it's absolutely remarkable the breadth of issues that come before the court. And we all know that each of them is terribly important not only to the litigants involved, but will set precedent for years to come. It is an incredible list of issues that comes before the court. It's more than a full-time job to become knowledgeable in each of those cases, to be able to participate in or write the opinion. And as Judge Edmonds said, she is the leader of the branch. And boy, what a time to take that job on. Controversy in the system, people making unfair accusations against the Judicial Council and the AOC, controversy for many reasons, budget cuts of 24% since 2008. Budget cuts that by now are coming to the point that are beyond critical. For many years, it was possible as that budget kept shrinking to kind of move among some of the funds that support the courts and do the traditional rob Peter to pay Paul to try to keep things from getting to beyond critical fashion. We're at the end of that. And institutions, just like people, and the people within those institutions get really grumpy when there's no money. It's really bad. And one of the things that happens is that they start looking only at their own self-interests or the interests that they're focused on, and it's very difficult to keep their focus on the good of the branch of the whole and the interests of the public and the other users of the court. Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakaue fights every day to try to make sure that the self-interests do not take over and that the interests of the branch and the interests of the public that use our justice system and need our justice system are served despite the terrible, terrible budget situation that we have. In her role, she has the responsibility of meeting with the legislature and of somehow trying to walk the role of being a politician without being a politician. She recently gave her first State of the Branch address to the California legislature, and as in everything she does, it was incredibly well done and very, very well received by the legislature. She takes time, despite the other full-time jobs that she's carrying, to speak throughout the state. And as Mel said, when she speaks, people are inspired by her. She took this job, one of the things that I've sort of laughed about, she took the job, it was the very next day that the Ninth Circuit said, oh, here, by the way, we have this question for you about standing on Proposition 8. Now, there are a couple of interesting things about that to me. One is that the Supreme Court actually gets to pick. I mean, unlike the trial courts, you're sitting in your trial court and the case comes in and you can't say, get out of here, I don't really feel like you're in this case. It's there. Supreme Court kind of has some luxury because with a few exceptions, the Supreme Court can kind of say, yeah, we'd like to hear that, or no, sorry, cert denied. With the Ninth Circuit, if they say, by the way, here's a question for you, you sort of have to answer that question. And that was sent to the court the day after she was sworn in, which has always made me wonder when it was they decided to send it to the California Supreme Court. Was it like the day before and they said, we're not going to tell you yet because you think you might not take the job? Or was it the day of and they said, oh, we can't do that to her today? I mean, you really have to wonder when they decided to do it. She's had incredibly thorny issues to deal with as the Chief Justice of the court on the legal issues, and of course the thorny issues that we faced as a state trying to deal with case management systems, business process re-engineering within the courts themselves. She immediately undertook a huge task of a review of the administrative office of the courts from top to bottom to determine whether there was extra work that was being done to make certain that there wasn't any waste at the AOC. She has opened up the Judicial Council to all viewpoints, to far more public comment, to far more input from people across the branch. She's reached out to the Alliance and asked them to participate rather than to simply criticize. She has appointed them to committees and asked for their input. Her belief is to open this process to everybody and make sure all voices are heard, with the hope that when that happens, we can come out of this as a stronger branch that takes all viewpoints into account and is a strong third branch of government in our state. I do have to say one thing about one of her opinions. She's authored a few opinions. But I actually, when I looked this morning, was somewhat amused by her very first opinion on the court, one of those slightly more obscure areas of the law that the California Supreme Court handles. And of course, when you author, you're in such a fishbowl, and the pun is intended. You're in such a fishbowl in the position because she authors her first opinion, and there are articles about, okay, now, when did other judges write their first opinion, and was it unanimous? I mean, all of these things that get analyzed, it's unbelievable. But the first opinion actually held that a fish and game warden could stop a person who was fishing off a pier and who had managed to get the illegally caught lobster into the car and away from the pier before the game warden stopped him. And there was a search and seizure question as to whether a game warden has to have probable cause to do that if the person is away from the point at which they have either shot the animal or caught the fish or grabbed the lobster. The opinion duly notes that the lobster was put back into the ocean by the game warden, which, by the way, was part of the favorable review of this opinion that you can find on savecalfishing.com. It's quite comfortable with it. To put it mildly, Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakayui has had quite a year, dealing with problems in the branch and dealing with unbelievably complicated legal issues. It is so perfect that the library has chosen to give her this award because there could be no one that is more deserving of it, and I am very honored to have the opportunity to say that.
I too am honored to be here tonight, and I want to thank everyone who supports the Friends of the Los Angeles County Law Library. What a wonderful organization this is, what a great night this is, and it's not, as is frequently the case, great organizations survive because they have strong women making them survive, and Terry Cavill, Susan Steinhauser, and Marshall Kozlov. Hats off to you and all the board members for making this a very successful evening. I want to acknowledge the speakers on the panel tonight. Presiding Judge Lee Edmond, I'm thrilled that you like your job. I'm proud to have played a part in it, and let's give her another round of applause. And Mel, I want to thank you for speaking, and as you were speaking, it reminded me of the many obligations that we ask of people who assume high positions of office, particularly if they come from a particular ethnic group, as Justice Sakaue is the first Filipino-American to be Chief Justice. She's obviously a woman. She's the first Filipino-American. In addition to being Chief Justice, heading the Judicial Council, rendering all these opinions, we ask her to go out and promote interest in the law in areas which years ago might not have been there. When I went to law school at Columbia back in 1967, we had 300 people in the first year class. 10 were women. The year before, there were 3. Flash forward to 2009, I was asked to be the commencement speaker. I was very proud. It was the 50th anniversary of the graduating class of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There were 3 women in that class, and all 3 were offered nothing but jobs in a steno pool after they graduated. 2 are on the bench today. So it has been a long road for lots of people, and I'm very proud that we have you as our Chief Justice. Even prouder now that I know you play golf, because I know you've learned how to deal with the misfortunes of life, because the ball just doesn't do what you want it to do, no matter how hard you try. And Edith, I want to thank you for your remarkable words. Edith and I spoke at a rally for not too long ago to restore, I won't say full funding to the court, but enough funding so the courts can perform their very important mission in society. As a former governor, I can tell you this: you cannot have a civilized society without a functioning court system. That distinguishes us from many other countries on the planet Earth. Do we have to make cuts in this system? Yes, but we made too many cuts already, and I'm very proud that the Chief Justice is leading this fight, and for that, among many reasons, is why you're being honored tonight. I think everyone in the room knows that the economy has not done well over the last 10 years. I was just preparing for a speech I'm going to give in a couple weeks about how you can create jobs in California and locally without help from the federal government. I'm looking at this projection by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in 2001. They predict that there'll be 150 million Americans working in 2010. There were 130.6 million working in 2000. Now there's 130.4 million. So they're only off by 20 million. Instead, we have to contribute to their making a living. So the lack of high unemployment, or the lack of high employment, has contributed to severe funding shortfalls, which the court have had to cope with. But you have to keep the courts open. I was driving around here. I was out of office 3 or 4 years, and I happened to drive by here on a day that the court was closed, 1 day a month. And it just stunned me. Because you read about it, but when you see it, that no one can get in the courthouse, it's like, this is America. Why aren't the courts open? Does justice take a day off? I mean, think of all the people whose trial could have started that day, all the people who have victims of crime that have to wait even longer. So it's really important as a symbol, as well as a functioning reality, to ensure that the courts have enough money to preside over criminal trials, to resolve civil disputes, and to perform the functions we ask of them. The governor is the chief executive. The legislature passes the laws. The courts enforce the law. The courts are not a line item in the budget. They're not an interest group. If you put money in the court system, you will not get a rousing ovation from most crowds, this crowd possibly, but most. The courts will not give you tons of money to run for office, but guess why you do it? You do it because you took an oath of office to defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state of California, and you cannot do that without funding the courts. say to all my colleagues in Sacramento, I know you have challenges. I know this is a reapportionment year. I know there's a lot of pressures holding office today, but guess what? No one demanded that you run for office. You wanted to run for office. This is like a marriage, for better or for worse. You're getting the worst part now. The better part will come. Just hang in there. The economy will recover. So find a way to perform your duty. You've got to make sure the courts have the money they need to perform their constitutional responsibility. I am so proud that we are honoring the Chief Justice. I'm particularly proud that she came from UC Davis. As she well knows, UC Davis is the closest UC campus to the Capitol in Sacramento. And frequently you get interns that want to work in the legislature and in the governor's office. And not surprisingly, most of those interns come from UC Davis because they're only 11 miles away. So I would always meet with the interns, whether they're legislative interns or interns in the executive. And whenever I was meeting and I knew there was a majority of UC Davis interns in the room, I would say to them, now you know there's a reason why they call your institution the University of California at Davis. And they would all look around like there was something they were supposed to know. And I said, I'm just pulling their leg. I just want to make sure they were listening to me. But I can tell you, as a governor, all governors appreciate the University of California at Davis because interns help immeasurably, particularly in times when there's not enough money to have all the staff you want. And what governors normally do is cut back their own staff before they cut back the legislative staff. I know Governor Brown has done that. So in addition to your extraordinary commitment to the law, your academic achievements, your essentially living the American dream, of being a very distinguished jurist in trying times. And remember this, Chief, people only remember you in tough times. In good times, you get no credit because they just say, well, she had a good economy, anyone could have done a good job. In tough times, you have a lot of anxiety, a lot of sorrows, a lot of grief, but you can make a lot of history in hard times if you strike the right balance, and as I know you already have. So I'm very, very pleased to be one of many people thanking you for your service, your leadership. We all look forward to following your lead and just reminding every American the reason we are a civilized society is we have a court system that administers justice, and we will be civilized as long as it is funded sufficiently to administer justice. So with that, Madam Chief Justice, if you could come up so we could collectively give you this year's Beacon of Justice Award.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm humbled and honored to be here with so many leaders of the Los Angeles community, not only out here in the audience, but on this dais with me. I have sincere thanks to extend to Marcia, Terry, Susan, friends of the LA Law Library, the Board of Trustees, and your Eric Weber, president of the Los Angeles County Bar, and your eloquent remarks, and of course your accurate definition of beacon. I've had this job for 13, 14 months, and I can't exactly tell you that I feel like a beacon, but I can tell you that having traveled 30,000 miles last year to meet you and to listen to you, and having worked with you, I know that everyone I've met, from the almost 240,000 attorneys of the state bar, to the 2,000 judges of California, to the many, many elected leaders, the 120 legislators in Sacramento. Those are the true inspirations. Those are the lights. Those are the beacons. And as once a very great man once said, Chief Justice George, I'm really just at the head of the parade. That light that you see, it's light behind me. It's the many people that I've just described who, even in our toughest times, in the hardest challenges the bench has ever faced, the branch has ever faced, We have compassionate, smart, dedicated people looking to advance the cause of justice. And I have to say a few words about the people on the dais you just heard from. Presiding Judge Lee Edmond, we started in 2008 on the Judicial Council together, bringing our statewide administration hats to the Judicial Council. We struggled, I believe, in that first year, Lee, in the hardest and the most, I think, shocking cuts to the branch ever. And I will say that serving with Lee Edmond that time was probably one of the most meaningful opportunities to find out about the talent of Los Angeles, the plans of Los Angeles, the vision of Los Angeles, and also that Los Angeles is this thriving, dynamic place that's seeking to find solution. And so it was through your presiding judge, who was then presiding judge-elect, that I came to know Los Angeles, and have learned it better, of course, with David Wesley, the presiding judge-elect also for next year. And that was a meaningful time for me to learn about you. Little did I know that Chief George would one day resign and say, I'm done after so many years of incredible service, that I would find myself more intricately involved in solutions to the branch and having the great advice of Los Angeles County. And then, of course, there is Edith Mathai, who serves on the council now. And I'll tell you, when Edith speaks, everyone listens. And my first experience with Edith was when I served as a special master in Ventura on the bench and watched Edith Mathai in action in a court. And all I can tell you, if you have not seen Edith Mathai in action, it is just simply wow. I spent 20 years on the bench, 14 on the trial court, 6 on the Court of Appeal. And to hear and see Edith Mathai in action, you know, you trial judges out there, there's nothing better than having a good attorney in front of you. Nothing better. And so a difficult case made all the more meaningful because of Edith's representation. And then Mel. Mel is a people person who brings communities together. Mel can rock a room. He will be your best friend by the end of the evening. And that is one of the endearing qualities of a good trial attorney. Someone who can speak to a crowd and bring you together. And I'm grateful, Mel, that you lent your great talents to us tonight. Thank you. And then, of course, Governor Davis. I will tell you that the conversations I've had with people in the branch and the AOC about when you were governor and your vision for the judicial branch is the stuff of legend. You inspired many great ideas on the branch, for the branch, and you were such a great supporter of justice. And so I also thank you for what I consider to be some of your visionary appointments to judges who've contributed to advance justice. And so your contribution and your legacy of appointments is tremendous, and I thank you for that. I also have to say I quite enjoyed your policy perspective tonight. You know, I'm just a country judge. I'm used to a courtroom and a bench, and really the prize for the price of administration is the ability to be involved in the Supreme Court cases and to spend hours reading and looking through briefs and trying to find the right answer and looking behind policy and legislative history. That is the prize for the price of administration. But coming here to this role, I mean, there are only 28 Chief Justices, well, 27 justices before me as chief. And the judicial branch is as old as statehood. This is a job that you learn as you go along. It is a work in progress, but it is a work inspired by, again, the lawyers, the judges, the justices, the elected officials, the community leaders that all understand the value and the importance of separation of power and how the judicial branch is a safety net for a civil society. And that when homes are lost and jobs are taken and services are no longer provided in our 4th year of cut, the judicial branch is more important than ever. So notwithstanding the fact that we are in our 4th year of cut, nevertheless, we continue to pioneer on. We continue with innovative projects. We continue to find ways to become more productive, more efficient. And yes, sometimes we disagree. And yes, sometimes we disappoint. And yes, sometimes we actually debate. But I will tell you that under my administration, none of that will ever divide us. Because I think our great strength as a judicial branch is our ability to bring together our dissonant voices and come to a better product that is ultimately for the people of California. And so today, when I accept this Beacon of Honor award, I really accept it on behalf of all of you who've advanced justice by volunteerism, by open courts, by working with your courts to find a better way, by trying to go to the legislature and walking the halls, by calling me and emailing me with good ideas. That truly is the beacon of justice. That is the inspiration for the branch. That is what makes us great. I think that is what makes California a leader. Its bench and its bar and its community and its elected officials. And I'm honored to accept this award. Thank you.